Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Mr. Kadim Khan and I am a lecturer in the Institute of Computing, Kuwait University of Science and Technology. Today we will take lecture number 22 of the subject of Object-Oriented Analysis and Design. And in this lecture we are going to discuss the layout managers in Java. Dear students, the layout managers in Java are used to define the layout or the presentation of different components on the container. So layout manager is in fact define the position of different components on the containers. This is the discussion agenda. It contains the topics of layout managers and there are 4 different layouts managers: flow layout, border layout, grid layout and null layout. So here we will discuss all these 4 layouts with the Java examples. Layout managers. First we will define what is the layout manager. Basically, the layout managers defines the layout or presentation of different components of swings and AWT on the containers. So layout manager are used to arrange the components on the container. If we do not provide any layout manager in the programming, then the default layout manager is the flow layout. So first we will explain the flow layout with the Java examples. So as its name indicates, here the layout of the different components will be exactly like in the flow. So it is a free flow of layout for the components. Free flow here means that if we increases the size of the container, then the rest of the components that will appear on the next row of the surface. For example, if I will make the size of this window smaller or small, then this text will be trimmed towards the left sides. And if I make the sides very much larger, then this text will again trim towards the right sides. So this means that this is the free fall layout manager. This is the example of this layout manager. In Java you can see there are 4 different buttons. If I decrease the size of the window, then this button will come down. So, and if I increase, they will arrange in this first row. So in this layout manager, this is the free fall layout. Now this is the library here we use for in Java programming. Import java.awt.statics. It is used for the JFrame and for the container. Also we have import javax.swing.statics. This library is used for the swing components like buttons. And here we have defined our own class, public class frame1, which is inherited from the JFrame. So extend relation is used to inheritance to show that this is the parent and this one is the child. Now this is the constructors here, public frame1. In the constructor we define the container. Container is exactly like the JPanel, where we can place different components. Container C is equal to get contain pane. So this will define the container for the components. C.set layout new flow layout. This will define the new flow layout of the components. Here flow layout means it is the free fall layout and new is the variable that is the operator which provides the memories to this layout. Now here we have declared 4 different buttons: button 1, button 2, button 3 and button 4 with the B1, B2, B3 and B4 objects respectively. You can see there is no J. So this is also a valid Java extension. That is syntax that J button is valid or J only button is also valid. Now we have added all these 4 buttons inside of the container. So C.add B1, C.add B2, C.add B3 and C.add B4. Set location 700, 300. So 700 and 300 will be the location of this window on this screen. So 700 x-axis and 300 y-axis. Then this will be the location of this window on the screen. This defines the size of the window about 300 towards the x-axis and 300 towards the y-axis. Now this shows that the window should be visible and set visible true. That means window should be appear. Now public static void main is the function which is in fact present in every Java program, and the program execution is starting from public static void main. Here we have just instantiated or defined the object of the frame1. So frame1 application is equal to new frame1. This will define the objects here. Now dear student, we will execute this code in our Eclipse IDE. So just click on the exit button to stop viewing the slides. So first we will start our Eclipse IDE. This is my Eclipse IDE. This is 2020-06. So it is very much latest Eclipse IDE. Now we will first copy this part of the code from here and just we will paste it into our Eclipse existing program, or we can also create or take a new program here. So here you can see that Eclipse IDE is now opening. Yes, now it has been completely on. So first I have to remove the previous code of any other program. Now Control A, Control C. Here. This is the code. Our code is now completely transferred here. Now we make sure that the file name is frame1.java and also the class name is frame1. So file name and class name should be the same. To execute the code, click on this button and select OK. Now this is the output here. If I decreases the size of the window, you can see 4th button will appear in the next row, and similarly 3 buttons and 2 buttons. Now you can see that, and the layout of the window is free fall and it is flow layout. Now we will resume our lecture. Another layout manager is called border layout. In this layout manager, the components are they are arranged in the format of different borders on the container, such as center, east, west, north, south borders of the containers. For example, center will be the center border of the container. Similarly, east, west, and north or south are the other positions on the containers. Now here, from this example, you can see that this is center, this is east, and this is west, which is our right and left. This is top and bottom, but these are the north and south borders. Now this sort of the layout managers is used for creating the different windows such as the editors, etc., where we have on the top menus and on the bottom we have the taskbar. Similarly on the right we have certain toolbox, and therefore here we have certain file explorer, and in the center we can view different files. So such types of editors are used by developed using this layout manager. Now this is the code here. Import java.awt.statics. This library defines AWT abstracts windowing toolkit library, and it contains the JFrame and the container. Now import java x.swings.statics. It contains different controls. Different controls are in fact defined by the .swing. Public class frame1, which is extended from JFrame, and frame1 is the child of JFrame. This is a constructor. Here container C get contain pane. It defines the inside panel of the window. C dot set layout new border layout. Here we have defined the border layout for the Java. C dot set layout new border layout. Now we have defined our first button, button V1 new button, and its caption on the top is center. Similarly, another button with the caption on the top is east. Similarly, west, north, and south. These are different buttons we have defined here. Now we will add each buttons here. So C1.add B1 button is added, but border layout.center. This means that B1 button should appear in the center of the window. Similarly, B2 button will appear in the east of the window. East is our right, and west is our left. North is the top, and south is the bottom. So all these controls will be arranged in these layout managers. Now this defines the position of the window on the screen, and this defines the size of the window on the screen. For example, 700, 300 is the position towards the 700 x-axis and 300 y-axis. Set size 300, 300 defines the x-axis and y-axis size of the window. And set visible true means this will be appeared. Public stated wideman string here. Yes, this is the wideman function, and this function is in fact executed, or it is compiled first when the program is compiled. So program execution starts from the wideman. Now here we have just instantiated the object of frame1 class. So when this object is instantiated, then frame1 constructor is called. Now we will execute this code in our Eclipse IDE. For this purpose, press the escape button. After skipping the slides, you should transfer the code into your Eclipse IDE. Here I have transferred the code here. Now to execute the code, just click on the compile and run button. So I will click on these buttons and click OK. So when you click the OK buttons, so you can see that the output will appear here. So again click on the compile button. This is the output. You can see this is button, it is clickable. This is another button, this one is another, and so on. These are different buttons which are clickable. So this was the border layout. This is the border layout. The third one is called the grid layout. As its name indicates, the grid layout defines the layout in the form of the rows and columns. So it divides the container into grids with the rows and columns. So it divides container into the grid. So every component has the same width and height. So in the grid layout, we have the same width and height. For example, we have different 5 buttons. So this is the button 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now that means that there we have defined the grid, that is rows and columns. First we have declared the libraries java.aw2.starix and similarly javax.swing.starix. AW2 is used for the abstract windowing toolkit, defines the JFrame and the container, while swings defines the different controls of the Java. Now here we have public class frame1 extend JFrame. We have defined our class which is extended from the JFrame built-in class. So that means that frame1 is the child of JFrame. JFrame is the parent here. Public frame1, it is the constructor. Here container C get containment define the panel or the inside of the window. Now C.set layout new grid layout 3, 5. 3, 5 means 3 rows and 2 columns. 3 rows and there are 2 columns. Now here we have declared and are defined 5 different buttons: B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. So button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, and button 5. Now C.add button 1, C.add button 2, 3, 4, and 5. All buttons are added here. Now set location 700, 300 is the location of this window on the screen. And set that size 300, 300 means 300 x-axis and 300 y-axis. pixels will be the size of the window, and the window will be appeared, that means it's set visible true. And public serial void main, this is the function, and where program execution start from the public serial void main. Here we have just declared the object of the frame1 class. So frame1 application new frame1, while frame1 is the constructor. When this object is instantiated, then constructor is called and the output will be created. Now if you run this code, so for this purpose you have to transfer all this code into your Eclipse IDE. So first you need to remove the previous codes of your any previous program. Click here and paste your code here. So after then you need to compile the program and run the program. So to compile and run the program, you need to click this green button, run frame1. So just click on this and this is the output. You can see these are different buttons, but these are in the grid. So first grid, second, third, all this is the grid, and there are rows and columns in this grid. Now we will resume our lecture. So now the fourth layout is called the null layout. In the null layout, we provide the null value in the set layout manager. So content.setLayout null is provided. This is generally a bad practice, means that this layout manager is not used mostly. So this is the null layout, means that everywhere it can be plotted. So for example, you can see that there are different buttons, but this is very hard to program as well. And this here, these controls will be plotted on the same positions, even that if you minimize or maximize or to increase or decrease this windows size. Now first we have declared the libraries, import java.awt.static and import javax.swing.static. We have declared these libraries here. Now public class frame1 extend jframe. Frame1 is the class name, while it is extended and inherited from the jframe. Jframe is our built-in class which is in the AWT library. Now this is the constructor of the frame1. In the constructor we first have initialized the container c get content pin. Here we have initialized the container c.setLayout null, means that this is the null layout. Then we have defined 5 different buttons here in Java. Now b1.setBounds is a special function which defines the point 1 and point 2 for any control. So b1.setBounds x1, y1, x2, y2. This is the position of the control b1 on the screen. So first this point and second this point. Similarly, b2, b3, b4 and b5, we have different positions for these controls. Now it is very important that, for example, here you can see that the values are incrementing 10 from each values. For example, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So that means that you can see there is equal gap between these buttons from the point 1. So, and similarly 5, 50, 100 and so on, these are the points 1 values. 60, 60, 60, 60, that means another point. You can see that these buttons are on the same second point. So that means that 60 and 20, 60, 20, 60, 20, that is 0.2. So that means that the size of that controls is the same. For example, you can see button 1, button 2, button, everyone has the same size. Now we have added all the controls into the containers, and here we have defined location of the window and size of the windows from the x-axis and y-axis coordinates. Now the window is set visible true, that means that window will be appeared. Now public static void main string args, this is the main function, which means that program execution will start from here. This is the objects frame 1 application new frame 1. So that means that object is instantiated here frame 1, and application that set default close operation jframe dot exit of course. When this cross button will be clicked, then the application will be closed. Now dear students, you can run this code in your Java Eclipse IDE. This is for your practice purpose, and you can change these values to yourself. You will observe that the position of the controls will be changed. Now this is the your second assignments. What is Corba? Application of Corba in Java, Corba architecture in UML, and the due date is the next Sunday. So this is your next assignment. Dear student, this is the end of the lecture. There are two different books. These are very much useful books for Java. You can study these books, and if you have any question, you can drop an email to my ID as well, m.kadim@kust.edu.pk. I will answer your questions immediately as soon as I get your emails. Thank you very much.